The numbers are in, and they're absolutely brutal. And they don't paint a picture of a league on the rise, but one being carried on the back of a single rookie. And you could argue this isn't about league wide growth, it's about a dangerous dependency. And the WNBA may not have a star system right now, it might just have a one person economy, and her name is Caitlin Clark. And let's not sugarcoat this, all right? Let's look at the facts because a recent hyped up rivalry game between the Indiana Fever and the Chicago Sky and a massive 2.7 million viewers on ABC, a historic number. But what happens when you take Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese off the court for the rematch? That number plummets to 1.31 million, and that's not a dip. It's not a downturn. It's a 51% collapse. It's a viewership cliff, and the WNBA just walked right off of it. And today we're breaking down the shocking numbers that suggest the league has a crisis on its hands, a crisis of its own making, and we're going to expose the uncomfortable truth on what happens when the Caitlin Clark show can't go on. So, as you guys see in the article, as it reads, it says Fever Sky viewership dips as Clark Reese absences take toll. The Sky and Fever have met 4 times this season and have one more matchup on September 5th. The Indiana Fever and Chicago Sky have consistently driven some of the WNBA's biggest viewership numbers since Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese were drafted last year. But the two stars have been out with injuries, and it's reflected in the viewership. So Saturday's Fever versus Sky game drew 1.31 million people on CBS, which is slightly above the average national TV viewership for Fever games this year, but it was also the least watched of the 8 Chicago Indiana games since 2024. It was also less than half the viewers who watched the two teams face off in their 2025 season opener on May 17th, which was 2.7 million viewers. Right? So when you really look at the Sky versus Fever viewership since the start of 2024 season, this follows 1.47 million viewers for the team's previous meeting on July 27th, which Clark and Reese also missed due to injury. Clark has played in only 13 of the Fever's 32 regular season games this year, has played in just one of the 4 meetings between the two rivals. The average viewership for Fever versus Sky Games 2024, 1.9 million, 2025, 1.85 million. And considering Clark and Reese played in each of the 4 games last year, the two numbers staying close is still indication of the trickle down effect of the stars. And the 2 games they missed are averaging close to 1.4 million viewers, not far from the 1.6 million viewership average of the 2024 WNBA Finals, and significantly more than the 728,000 average of the 2023 Finals. This has also been evident in non-Fever games. While those are still drawing significantly less than Indiana games this year, Front Office Sports reported after the All-Star break in July that those games are up 37% in viewership compared to the full year 2024. However, Clark admitted to the WNBA legend Sue Bird on the Bird Eyes View podcast released Friday that she feels a responsibility to play knowing that many are expending resources to watch her. Clark goes on to say in quotes, I think that's definitely been hard. I'm going to go to every road game no matter what, whether I'm playing or not. And it's not hard because obviously I do feel this responsibility of being out there and playing, Clark said. Clark has been out since mid July with a right groin injury and has still not fully practiced with the Fever. Reese is dealing with a back injury and hasn't played since July 29th. Chicago and Indiana meet one more time this season on September 4th in Indianapolis. The game will air on Ion. All right. So there we have it. So to really get the scale of this problem, you have to look at the league as two different things. The WNBA with Caitlin Clark in the WNBA without her. And the difference is staggering and it's about way more than just one rivalry game. When Clark plays, records aren't just broken, they're annihilated. The season opener between the Fever and Sky became the most watched WNBA game on any network in 23 years, peaking at 3.3 million viewers. Her debut against the Kinetic Sun was the most viewed WNBA game ever on ESPN platforms. And this season has seen a historic number of games top 1 million viewers. And what's the common denominator? Caitlin Clark played in pretty much all of them. The league and its media partners know it, and that's why they jammed the Indiana Fever into almost every major national TV slot. And they are milking the cash cow for all she's worth. And honestly, who can blame them? Her games alone justify the broadcast schedule. But what happens when the main event is on the bench? As we can see, we got a terrifying glimpse because if you look at the Fever's game on NBA TV with Clark, a game against the Atlantic Dream drew a respectable 581,000 viewers. And without her, two other games on the same network averaged just 343,500 viewers. So that's a drop over 40%. So the most damning evidence, though, came from the Fever versus Sky rivalry that we talked about. The first game on ABC with both Clark and Reese with that blockbuster hit of 2.7 million viewers. And then a later Fever game on CBS with the champion Liberty with Clark playing still drew 2.22 million. But then Clark got hurt. The Fever, the very next Fever Sky game on a major network, CBS, but without Clark and Reese, the audience basically evaporates, right? So since the viewership crashed to 1.31 million, if you let that sink in, the exact same matchup, the same hype rivalry lost over half his audience because the two main characters weren't there. And this proves this isn't about team loyalty or some newfound love for the WNBA brand. It's about star power. And right now, it's about one star's power. And the league can issue press releases talking about overall growth, and sure, non-Fever games are up, but that growth is a gentle hill compared to the Mount Everest of viewership that Caitlin Clark brings. The hard truth is that the millions of new fans who showed up this year came for her. And when she's not playing, a huge chunk of them just change the channel. And if you need any more proof of this dependency, just look at the league's biggest showcase, the WNBA AllStar Game. This is supposed to be a celebration of the league's best, a showcase of its deep talent pool. Instead, it became the most glaring example of yet the Caitlin Clark crisis. In 2024, with Clark playing, the All-Star Game was a monster success. It shattered records, drawing a massive 3.44 million viewers on ABC. It was the most watched WNBA All-Star Game in history, nearly tripling the previous record from 2003. And the event was called a monumental success, a sign that the WNBA had finally made it. The narrative was set the league was on a rocket ship. Now, fast forward to the 2025 All-Star Game. Caitlin Clark, named a captain, had to sit out with a groin injury. The result comes a complete and utter ratings disaster. Viewership for the league's flagship event collapsed by 36%, plummeting to just 2.19 million viewers. So let's be fair. 2.19 million viewers is still a fantastic number historically. In fact, it's the second most watched All-Star game ever. But you can't lose over a third of your audience for your biggest event of the year and call it anything other than a huge problem. It proves that the record smashing 2024 audience wasn't there for the WNBA All-Stars. They were there for Caitlin Clark. Without her, more than 1.2 million of those viewers simply vanished. And this isn't a subtle trend. It's a blaring alarm going off at league headquarters, and the All-Star Game is designed to elevate every player and create new stars, but the 2025 ratings show it failed to do that. It showed that the casual fans, the millions of new viewers the league needs for its next media rights deal, aren't invested in the other top players yet. They're invested in one transcendent superstar, and when she doesn't play, the party's over. And you can't build a future on a foundation that fragile. So this Clark dependency looks even more severe when you look at the numbers for the league's other top players. Let's talk about Aja Wilson. By any measure, she is a phenomenal all-time great player. A two-time MVP, a champion, the face of Las Vegas Aces. She is actually the player the WNBA should be able to build around, but the ratings tell a different, very different and uncomfortable story. And while Caitlin Clark's game are putting up numbers that compete with major men's sports, games featuring Aja Wilson and the powerhouse Aces often struggle to make a dent. A matchup between two of the league's best teams, the Las Vegas Aces and the Connecticut Sun, can draw shockingly low viewership. And this isn't a knock on Wilson's incredible talent. It's an indictment of the league's inability to market anyone not named Caitlin Clark. To put in perspective, an average Indiana Fever game on national TV this year draws around 1.26 million viewers. A big Clark game can easily clear 2 million. Compare that to a game with the reigning MVP. Now, an Aces versus Sky game in late 2024 did pull a solid 1.22 million viewers on CBS, but that seems to be the exception, not the rule, and it was still below what Clark's key matchups were drawing. So the narrative from the league's office is that the rising tide lifts all boats. And they'll point out that viewership for non-fever games is up around 37% this season. And while that's true, it's also a bit misleading. An increase from a very low number to a slightly less low number is not a revolution. Going from 400,000 viewers to 549,000 is progress, but it's nothing compared to 2.7 million people who tune in just to see Clark. So this is the uncomfortable truth the WNBA has to face. They don't have a deep roster of stars who can carry the league from a ratings perspective. And they have one supernova in a collection of amazing players who the general public, for whatever reason, hasn't connected with on a mass scale, right? And Aja Wilson is a basketball titan, but she's not in the same stratosphere as Caitlin Clark as ratings draw. So why has the league failed to build her or anyone else into a household name that can command that kind of attention? And this isn't a Caitlin Clark problem. This is a WNBA problem. They were handed a golden goose, and instead of using her fame to elevate everyone, they chose or they just become addicted to the golden eggs. So what does this all mean? It means the WNBA is in a much more delicate spot than the happy headlines suggest. And this isn't a story of explosive growth, it's a story of extreme dependency. The Caitlin Clark effect is very real, but it has created a dangerous addiction. The league is so reliant on one player that her absence creates a genuine threat to its entire growth narrative. And the real issue here is a marketing failure that started long before Clark showed up. For years, the WNBA struggled to create big, compelling stories and stars that broke through to the mainstream. And they had legends like Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird, and Brianna Stewart, but they never quite translated that brilliance into sustained widespread cultural relevance. And then Caitlin Clark just fell into their lap. She came in as a prepackaged superstar, a cultural phenomenon with a huge built-in audience from her college days. And the league didn't create the hype, they inherited it. But instead of using that massive wave of attention to introduce her fans to the league's other great players and rivalries, they mostly just ridden the wave. Where are the primetime marketing campaigns for Aja Wilson's historic dominance? Where are the documentaries about the Fury rivalry between the New York Liberty and the Las Vegas Aces? Why aren't dynamic players like Enrique Unkwale or Nafisa Kaler being pushed with the same energy as the rookie from Iowa? The answer seems simple. It's easier to just put Caitlin Clark on TV and watch the numbers soar, but that's a short-term play with potentially devastating long-term risk. But by betting the entire farm on one player, the league has accidentally told millions of new fans that she's the only one who really matters. And the ratings show that those fans have listened. And when she's not on the court, they're gone. And this creates a huge problem for the WNBA's future, especially with a massive new media rights deal on the horizon. Networks aren't going to pay top dollar for a league whose value gets slashed in half by a single player's injury. They want proof of a sustainable, diverse, and compelling product and not a one woman show. And right now, the numbers suggest the league doesn't have that. It has a winning lottery ticket and is just praying it doesn't get lost. And the evidence is overwhelming. The WNBA's current ratings boom in a bubble inflated by the incredible star power of Caitlin Clark. And as we've seen, the second she steps away, that bubble threatens to burst. And this isn't a sustainable path to growth. It's a high wire act without a safety net, in my eyes. And when you look at it even more, the league is at a crossroads. Will it keep riding the coattails of its one woman stimulus package, or will it finally figure out how to market all the other incredible talent it has? And the entire future of the league might depend on that answer. But also, it's hard to even say that because the league has also went against their golden goose, their cash cow, as a Caitlin Clark, because the old guard, when it comes to these players that feel like they are entitled to something but haven't been worth and viable as Caitlin Clark, and kept going against her like a Cheryl Swoops, the old hag, Cheryl Swoops, the old players like Diana Taurasi, all throwing shade. So obviously, in my mind, what makes them not they like this girl so much? And she's just a wholesome, pure talent that's amazing as of Caitlin Clark, and she's phenomenal as she is. If y'all hate her so much, I'ma rock with her. And that's where the relevance of the people have really resonated with Caitlin Clark, understanding that she's just a pure, wholesome competitor, not like the rest. And she set the tone by being in her own journey. And we can feel the refs having not calling the calls and having a special whistle. And Caitlin Clark taking hits and dangerous actions towards her by players having a personal vendetta. And the league, the WNBA, not doing much about it. So the simple fact is everyone is saying, you know what? Since y'all want to sit there and let Caitlin Clark possibly be a martyr for the simple fact of doing just as good for this league and the one that's making this league even have new eyeballs, I'm going to rock with her and we going to stand with her 10 toes down. So forget the league because the league don't care about the players as a whole, not even the player that brought new eyes to even gravitate to even take interest into this league. So now individuals are saying, you know what? I'm going to take interest to this special player because y'all don't appreciate it like we appreciate it, but we not going to take interest in embracing the league as a whole because y'all can't even embrace the player, the special phenomenal player as of Caitlin Clark with the Caitlin Clark effect that is actually bringing value to this league to even be recognized as a whole, right? So I think it's self-explanatory. And then you have to say, why did Caitlin Clark become so special and in demand and had her whole pre-package, right? Coming into the WNBA. And when you think about it, it's because she's a scoring machine. Clark isn't just good; she's historically good. She broke NCAA scoring records, both for women and all time, with deep 3 pointers that look like Steph Curry range that's never seen before, and the versatility. She's not just a shooter; she's a passer and playmaker who makes her teammates better. So her game is built for social media. Logo threes, flashy assists, clutch shots, the kind of plays that go viral in seconds, right? So when you look at it, when Clark hit her college peak, right when the NIL deals, the name, image, and likeness deals became legal, meaning she could build the brand while still in school and profit off of it, the WNBA the expansion of interest took place because the league has been pushing hard for new fans, and Clark became the perfect face to market that push. And then between the US women's soccer hype, LSU Angel Reese storyline, and March Madness going mainstream, Clark stepped in as a headliner during a cultural shift, right? So when you look at it in the media pre-packaging, a small town Iowa girl becomes national superstar, the female Steph Curry, all those things, right? because I know her for to be the female Steph Curry in my eyes. But when you look at it, she got primetime coverage, repeated futures, and was positioned as a storyline of every tournament she played in when it came to the NCAA spotlight and ESPN, and then the rivalries and drama with the matchup with Angel Reese in South Carolina and LSU weren't just games, they were sold as cultural events. So when you look at the things, the marketability and the personality, and she's relatable but competitive because she's a Midwestern, down to earth vibe that brands love, but also fury competitive side that draws attention because she's clean, sponsor friendly image, no big controversy, you know, she's very polished and know how to articulate herself and says the right things and when it comes to interviews, and has supportive family, and she's easy for big corporations to sign. And then she's a merch machine because her jerseys sell out in hours and she fills arenas on the road and she essentially moved ticket markets. So when you look at all of these things, right, and she already had became with a ready-made audience, because when you look at the college fandom crossover, Iowa fans already travel deep, and then Clark turned those road games into home games, and then social media following with millions followed her highlights before she even stepped into the WNBA, and then the NCAA tournament star power, because the back-to-back deep tournament runs cemented her as a must-watch TV before she even went pro. So if you want to look at it, Caitlin Clark was pre-packaged because she had the talent, the story, the timing, and the media push all at once. And to be honest, it was nothing that the WNBA needed to already invest in her because she already came to the WNBA adding value. But where the WNBA messed up is more amazing when someone can add value and bring something with value to the table than coming with nothing. So now you abuse her, but you don't use her effectively. So then, as a partnership with the Caitlin Clark brand and then Caitlin Clark, the player, let alone the employee and the protection of all that together, let alone the brand of the franchise, one hand wash the other, but instead you say, you know what? This girl is nothing we need to give her. And it's like the WNBA slighted her because there was no value they needed to add it to her because she was already prepackaged. And they just didn't like the simple fact that, you know what? To be honest, they can't control Caitlin Clark the way they want her because she has a following that's backing her. They riding with her. She got a loyal fan base. So anything that happens, we're gonna call it out and we're gonna keep calling it out. And they don't know how to handle that because they used to micromanaging this little high school girl drama league of a WNBA. And then the simple fact is we want to abuse you and use you for your visibility and value, but we don't want you to not step out of line because we want you to do what we say we want you to do, even if we don't appreciate you the way we should, but we just want to extract and basically suck the life out of you, let alone take all the value that you came in prepackaged and leave you to the side and let you fend for yourself. But then she's back, Caitlin Clark's back in the league being a wholesome, lovable person, which is her brand, is the reason why the WNBA will keep on suffering. But let me know your guys' thoughts down in the comments below. I figure we have a conversation. For real though, this was interesting. Let me know what you guys think. On that note, family, peace.